Look, America has always been a land of opportunity and has drawn the best foreign students in the diaspora. And it's foolhardy for us not to create a way for them to onboard into the workforce. The greatest risk takers and entrepreneurs historically have been immigrants. And don't kid yourself, this president is a businessman, and I represented him for many years on Trump models, Miss Universe. He sees talent and wants to have it in this country. And he has said from time to time that foreign students should have a path to a green card. The problem is he has appointed people that have other designs. The H-1B system, the way it is broken. Don't get me wrong, a lottery is not a good system.
So you're saying there hasn't been too much impact. Like people are still positive about going to
Yeah,
the US
it,
and they're not so concerned with the
it
visa
was
crackdown.
in the beginning where they were shutting students down and they were increasing the scrutiny of their social media. It was impactful. It has now returned to its normal efficacy, although enforcement at embassies and controls at borders are more increased now. We're hearing all sorts of challenges and we're seeing denials where Homeland Security is doing a deeper dive in social media. Don't give up on the United States.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Mint and I'm Sana Marvaha. Today we are joined by a very special guest all the way from New Jersey, Mr. Michael Wiles. He's one of America's top immigration attorneys. He's also now known for being First Lady Melania Trump's former immigration lawyer. He's also the mayor of Englewood in New Jersey and the author of a book called Safe Haven in America. Today, he's here with us to discuss the crackdown on immigration under the new Trump administration, what the impact of it has been so far, and what the road ahead is looking like. Thank you so much, Mr. Wiles, for joining us here today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Senna.
All right. Well, first of all, one statement that you recently made has drawn a lot of traction, where you said that the plan to eliminate the current H-1B lottery system will be harmful for US businesses and for companies and for the workers there as well. So, could you explain that in a little detail, what the current system is like, what the proposed changes are, and why you think it's actually going to harm US companies?
Well, the system right now has a lottery where in a certain season you can apply for the visa. It opens and closes, and there's a competitiveness, but it's open for everybody at every station in every kind of employment, whether it's a sophisticated medical, a biotech, or a farm where somebody needs to have a professional working on staff. The government would like to replace that with an H-1B ranking rule, which was previously proposed and defeated several years ago. My opinion and many in the bar that this would affect small to medium-sized enterprises and or rural enterprises negatively. It also would affect international student enrollment in U.S. colleges and universities. A rank system would force employers to offer higher wages to foreign-born employees, therefore requiring employers to raise wages similarly to U.S. workers and face employment discrimination litigation. A rank system would give a massive advantage to big businesses in Silicon Valley, but not smaller ones. A rank system would inherently injure unionized workers, as the employer can only give them what's considered to be a CBA wage. And most countries provide a pathway to permanent residency, a long term solution for international graduates who attend colleges and university. Those students are overwhelmingly subsidized by American students, result in increased scholarships for domestic students and lower tuition prices overall. Without a clear pathway to remain in America permanently after graduation, high talent foreign students will choose to study outside of the United States, resulting in even higher tuition prices for domestic and in state students. Look, America has always been a land of opportunity and has drawn the best foreign students in the diaspora. And it's foolhardy for us not to create a way for them to onboard into the workforce and then compete against them in another market. The H-1B system, the way it is broken. Don't get me wrong, a lottery is not a good system. America's employers, if they decide that they have special needs, should be supported and bolstered. They shouldn't be told you only have a certain amount of them. And they certainly shouldn't be told that the salaries have to be higher, because that, I think, will be unfair also for Americans.
I think even the president from the start, he was not against H-1B as a, as a way to recruit people. He himself has been a proponent of H-1B, as was Elon Musk when he was, part of the administration. But there just seemed to be a lot of visa clampdowns happening in the recent few months, and that's where this issue seems to be arising.
It's such a frivolous kind of experience. Many people suspect that the reason the H-1B was not changed initially was because of the friendship between Elon Musk and then the president. That seems to have evolved over time, and it's really a shame that the lens or the drone isn't pulled back on the landscape. And that is, we want to make sure that a job can be secured by the most talented in every vocation, in every job in the United States, not just the ones that are in Silicon Valley, not just for those that are in the tech space. Look, we've built in all kinds of rules where there are, for example, for STEM students, science, technology, engineering, and math, three shots at getting an H-1B by the extension of OPT during that time. The government should be rolling up its sleeves and speaking to America's employers. And at the same time, it is again foolhardy for us not to create a path for permanent residence, for green cards, for foreign students who are talented and whose America's employers need them. Let's remind ourselves, if we look at the history, a lot of the foreign students go into the system. They not only get visas, green cards, then citizenship, but they then employ Americans and they invent and create. The greatest risk takers and entrepreneurs historically have been immigrants. America cannot forget that heritage.
All right. Well, then I want to ask you, since you would be dealing with, such cases on a daily basis, what has the on-ground impact of the recent crackdown been on, students, on visas? Like, what is the sentiment among those who do want to kind of travel to the US and possibly make it a home? Has it deterred them in any way? Have you seen any like specific cases or any numbers that you can share with us?
I'm in the well, if you would, or in the lion's den. I'm teaching a class on business immigration law at the Cardozo Law School, and yet I lecture to the creative fashion school that's across the street. It's the new school, Parsons, and I get to see foreign students in my class and students that are coming in for space not related to the STEM field. There is an enthusiasm and an excitement still to be in the United States. And don't kid yourself, this president is a businessman, and I represented him for many years. He sees talent and wants to have it in this country. And he has said from time to time that foreign students should have a path to a green card. The problem is he has appointed people that have other designs, and sometimes they're not girded by these sentiments. It's so important that we take the enthusiasm and the excitement. I speak often at forums, and I speak to the parents of foreign students that are thinking of sending their children into this a very political time on immigration. And I say, don't lose faith. The generation that is coming will lead this nation despite the politics of this nation. They may be divisive, they may be going and being headed now by extremes, but the golden experiment we come and call America has been built on the backs of immigrants, will continue to do so, and the lawyers in this space are seeing it firsthand.
All right, so you're saying there hasn't been too much impact. Like people are still positive about going to
Yes,
the US
it,
and they're not so concerned with the
it
visa
was
crackdown.
in the beginning where they were shutting students down and they were increasing the scrutiny of their social media. It was impactful. It has now returned to its normal efficacy, although enforcement at embassies and controls at borders are more increased now, so that if students start working without permission, they will be caught. And the government, we find, is using AI. So they're being very aggressive about the use of technology and getting consistent remarks and looking at people's telephones when they travel. This has not dampened the enthusiasm of the foreign students, but it has made a very aggressive circumstance.
All right, and what about the impact on, say, companies and the workforce, etc.? Have you seen any impact there so far?
A lot of employers do not want to deal with the tedium of uh, sponsorship. And there is a culture where employers are looking for people who already have H-1s and just use the portability clause to transfer them from one employer to the next rather than succumb to the politics of the lottery and have to wait for nuance. That changes the dynamic when somebody meets somebody in a school or onboards them and then really wants to invest in them. But I think that's going to be short lived. This is a businessman president. Eventually, I think America's employers will be heard. He does lunch and dine with the top companies of the world who have all benefited by foreign immigration and the scholarship and the talents that they have. I believe in the end this will improve, but it may get bumpy along the way.
Right. So you think that these visa crackdowns, etc., were more temporary and it's likely to ease out in, say, the coming few months?
I'm hoping for it because it's at such an active crescendo and speed. It's not sustainable, not for law enforcement, not for USCIS adjudicators, and certainly not for foreign students that are getting mixed readings as they travel in and out of the country.
Right. And have you seen any cases where someone was, say, detained or maybe even deported for like smaller offenses, especially among students, like you mentioned, social media, etc. We
Yes.
read a few reports that said that even for, something as small as parking tickets, immigrant students were still getting into trouble. So have you seen or faced or heard of any cases like that?
Yeah, sadly, we've seen some things, but they're all predicated on either a fraud or a lie that was perpetrated by the individual or Homeland Security measures that are actually proper. We had one student that had videos of beheadings in his WhatsApp, and the government stopped that student. It's forever delicate for you to think three-dimensionally before you come into the United States of the communications that you have. Are they first consistent with the visa that you have? Are you a visitor on a B1, B2? Then you have to think twice whether or not you should be looking for going to schools unless that endorsement is in your passport. And if you're a student, are you looking for a green card? Do you have already a company? Did you open up an LLC that you own? And then you don't have permission to even work for your own company because it's considered to be work. This is very important that people self reflect and get behind a good lawyer that can protect their interests because the government will stop you at multiple layers, whether it's going for the visa at the embassy, stopping you at CBP at the border, or even domestically. Homeland Security is pushing back through USCIS and what's called RFEs, requests for further evidence, where they're doing a deeper dive into the applications, trying to find inconsistencies from employers.
Right. So has there been, are you aware of any maybe a jump in numbers in, visa rejections, etc.? Or we also heard some cases where, students' visas, I'm talking about Indian students here, whose visas were approved, but after these revised social media checks came into play, their visas were put on hold because their accounts needed to be vetted again. So
We're,
anything like that?
yeah, we're hearing all sorts of challenges, and we're seeing denials where Homeland Security is doing a deeper dive in social media. That's why when lawyers onboard these matters, they have to do a deep dive. I'm not seeing a lot of them, but I am seeing people that are getting tripped up on stories that are not consistent and working out of turn or Homeland Security concerns with the social media comments that they may have made.
Right, okay. Well, so considering all of this is happening, what would your advice be to students from other parts of the country who want to come to the US to study and possibly work? Like, what are, say, like three tips that you would give them so that they can have an easier time with all of this happening?
Don't give up on the United States. Understand that you're part of a golden experiment. America has not just been a safe haven, but has been the glorious place where so much has been created. And finally, understand the great tradition that we have, whether it's our founding documents or parents, in helping foreign nationals come here. Not only will they take greater risks and succeed, but they'll ultimately be starting families and helping build and really make America great. So you are part of that formula. It may be a little nuanced. Get yourself a good lawyer that knows what they're doing and charges only project-based fee. This is a Sunday here for me. I have several appointments already. Wherever I am, I'm trying to help reach out to people. This is not a file. To me, it's a journey and it's a privilege, whether it's through a Zoom or an in person appointment, for me to see these beautiful vignettes and movies of America's future. You are part of that. We need you. This too will pass.
What's your view about the new Hire Act that's been mooted in the Senate right now, which would probably tax companies who are outsourcing talent? Do you think that is going to have some kind of an impact as well?
Anything that Congress will do to make it harder for foreign nationals to come to the United States or tax employers who use foreign nationals is foolhardy, and we're shooting ourselves in the foot. If an American employer needs a talent and they can't find it in amongst American population, we need to expand the net. We need to bring that talent into the country. That's what our founding doctrines envisioned, and that is ultimately what will make America strong.
All right. I know you're short on time, Mr. Wiles. Thank you so much for joining us here today and giving us these insights.
My pleasure. Thank you for your kindness, and I wish everybody listening to this a sense of calm despite the noise of the politics. We've lived through this in the past. This too will pass, and we will all be fine. Invest with your children in America. You will forever be gratified.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.